You see the title, you see the thumbnail. Today we will be talking about squatters. If you're unaware, tune in because you could learn a lot today. Let's get into the clips.
So you guys know I'm like really interested in like people breaking into people's houses and taking over them, like basically squatting. And there was a story that was, I believe, out of Atlanta about a military personnel or soldier she's deployed in Chicago right now who had her house taken over. Here's like a visual of the article that I saw. You can pause to read if you want. Just tweeted it from someone that I follow, basically saying you can remove a squatter from your house. My concern is how the police are always the first response is you're going to have to evict this person. So, long story short, she was in the middle of a sale of her house. During the process, she's deployed. Someone moved in. He's got a known criminal record, they say. He moved into the house and he's saying that he paid like 19 grand for a lease, so he's saying that he's renting there. Obviously, he's not. He's squatting. But when she calls the cops, the first thing they say is, okay, you're going to have to evict him. That eviction process, which she did serve him eviction papers, could take months, weeks, years, who knows?
Let's pause right there. How insane is it that you could have a home, you pay a mortgage on it? In this case, she's was active in the military, active duty. You go on deployment, someone falsifies some type of document, they basically break into your house, and then you call the cops. And instead of the cops just removing this person from the home, you have to go through this whole legal eviction process because someone illegally broke into your house and is now squatting in here. Makes absolutely no sense and it's absolutely insane.
So, like in my case, when it happened to me, the first thing I did was look up my state's law on squatting. What are the rules? And sure enough, I look up the state of Georgia's squatting laws. Hold on. One place I looked up calls it adverse possession, right, which I dealt with, and says they are entitled to that after 7 years. Another place I looked it up says 20 years for the same thing in the state of Georgia. So, my advice, if anybody finds themselves in this situation, demand outright that the person is arrested on breaking and entering. They have no right to the home. They're not supposed to be there. And then you cite your squatters' rights law when you're talking to the cops saying this person cannot prove that they've been here for 7, 20. I think Jersey was like 30 years. It was a long time. So please remove them from my property. It's a breaking and entering, and arrest them. A lot of people were worried about when my whole situation happened to me. A lot of people would talk to me about, like, oh my God, you're going to have to evict him. Like, what's the whole thing? And it's so crazy to me in my mind, but that is the go-to response from law enforcement. And they should know the laws of their state. So, heaven forbid, and I've noticed a pattern where this happens like in the midst or in between sale processes. So maybe something happens when the records go public. But like, if you find yourself ever in this situation, do not leave, and demand that the cops arrest the person on breaking and entering. Because first of all, you need to cite your squatters' rights law, right? And say that this person has not established domain or residency here for 7, 10, 30 years. And I want you to remove them because they're breaking and entering in my home. That's the only thing that worked for me. So we got to stop letting people.
Solid info. Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever had to deal with a squatter?
To have a serious conversation about squatters' rights and how they're being abused. I totally understand squatters' rights when it's like an abusive landlord or an unlawful eviction or something like that. But there's also a very clear difference between a squatter and just unlawful residents of a property. I was watching the news, and this lady in Queens, her parents died and left her a house in Flushing. She goes over to visit the house. It's people living in there. She finally gets the people out the house. She changes the locks, and then like right at the last minute, some other guy, he's like the boss squatter, I guess, he runs back in and he refuses to leave. And then he calls the cops and has the lady who owns the house, the lady whose name is on the property deed, she gets arrested for changing the locks because somebody was living in the house, and now that counts as an unlawful eviction. Mind you, there is no lease on record, no record of rent payments, no nothing. But because this man was just in her house illegally for as long as he was, she can't change the locks. Then there was another situation in Atlanta. Some squatters moved into a house and completely destroyed it. Like, we really, really, really need to come up with some common sense laws to stop this from happening. Because those squatters know who to play with. Because if you was in my house, clearly the homeowners get arrested regardless. So I'm going to earn my trip to jail. I'm going to jail and you going to hell.
Facts. It's crazy that people learn how to finesse all these type of laws. You have an able-bodied person who will want to squat in another person's house. You would think that's insane. Someone to be that lazy, um, manipulative, to use these squatter laws to literally bum it up in someone else's home.
Tell me why I just seen a video of a woman in New York City. She inherited a house, so it's her house, right? She go to the house and there are squatters in there. And a squatter is somebody who's not paying rent but just living in an empty home. So the squatters are in the house just chilling, right? And they are not letting the owner of the house in the house. And that's not even the worst part. So she eventually get them out and change the locks. Do you not know she went to jail for changing the locks? Bro, do you know how mad I'll be if I go to jail for changing the locks on my own goddamn house? Apparently in New York City, if you squat in a house, aka just staying in an empty home with nobody in there, after 30 days, that shit is basically yours. Could you imagine going on a month-long vacation, coming back, and somebody answer your door and say, oh yeah, this is my shit now, and by law, it's actually they shit? Boy, you gonna be looking stupid as hell. Them folks done sat on the hard point for 30 days and stole your house. Bro, I stayed in the country my whole life, like in the middle of nowhere type shit. And sometimes I be thinking, bro, like, do I wanna go to the city and then I see shit like this and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I don't know, bro, cause sometimes the city be looking like it's fun. But if I gotta deal with shit like that, bro, I don't know. I think I'll just stay in the middle of nowhere looking at trees and cows and shit.
You would think they would just simply change the law to avoid all this confusion.
The easiest thing in law is something called adverse possession or squatter's rights. It gives a squatter legal title to a property if they sit in there and squat long enough. It means you can own a piece of land, and if you don't check up on it for a while, and you might have somebody trespassing on that land, staying on that land, and you never gave them permission to do so, they could eventually own your land. Every state has different adverse possession laws. It's just not that cut and dry. You have to look at that statute in your state and see what gives a squatter the right to claim your property.
Again, these squatter rights, these squatter laws are absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't matter if you haven't if you haven't visited your property in a week or a year. No one should be able to break into your property and because they've been there 30, 60, 90 days, now be protected by the law. And if you literally try to go in and remove this person or change the locks, you could literally be fined and put into jail.
Hear this. You've worked hard all year and it's time for a vacation. You take your family on vacation for like a week, not even more than a week. And you come back home and the locks are changed on your doors and you find a bunch of squatters in your house. And then you call the police and they tell you it's nothing that they can do because it's a civil matter and these squatters have rights. You're totally in shock or pissed off to the highest level of pissivity. And the police officers are now telling you that you have to go because the squatters have produced a fake lease and you cannot be there. And in order to make them leave, you need to go to court to get them out. Well, guess what? If you live in Florida, in Georgia, you don't have to worry about it anymore because these two states have taken action. In Florida, Ron DeSantis has signed HB 621, eliminating all squatters' rights. Taking over people's homes and squatting in people's homes stops today in Florida. And there's a House bill on the floor in Georgia making squatting a criminal act. Additionally, if the squatter produces a fake lease saying they belong there, they'll be charged with a felony. Hopefully, the rest of the states will follow.
Again, they should have never got to this point in the first place. They should have been had laws in place when this this type of squatting behavior first started to show its head?
Anyone can legally take your property. Let me explain. There's a legal loophole in all 50 states that could cost you your property called squatters' rights, which is also known as adverse possession. In the state of Michigan, there's a 15-year minimum occupancy along with a few other elements that must be met for this to happen. Imagine this. You have a property you never use or check up on, and suddenly someone moves in, starts living there, and claims it as their own. Next thing you know, you're in a legal battle to get your own property back. That's right, squatters can legally take your abandoned home. So, don't let this happen to you, and if you have an abandoned home that is at risk of being taken by a squatter, it may be time to consider selling. And I'll even buy it off you for cash to eliminate the listing process. DM me the word squatter to learn more.
So he's trying to turn this squatter situation into his own personal gain. But you know what's crazy is you could have a squatter in your home and you would have to get a lawyer to help initiate this eviction process. And then ultimately when you win, this squatter probably won't even have any money to reimburse you for your lawyer costs. So not only will you be out a ton of time, you'll probably be out thousands of dollars that you'll never be able to recoup.
Talk about squatting for a moment, because I know y'all timeline has been filled with all these squatters getting away with stealing people's homes. I saw on a news clip where a lawyer was interviewed and he said that there's not even a court designed to handle cases like this. You know how they have traffic court or civil or maybe criminal court. They don't have like a real estate court or whatever it will be called. People are finding y'all's Airbnbs, y'all vacation homes, moving in there 30 days undetected, and now you can't evict them. Another case I saw, somebody went and changed somebody's mortgage and literally stole their house from right up under there. Apparently, you don't even have to have an ID to change a mortgage. See, I want to talk about this topic from all different angles because it's not just about the squatters. Is this a result of homelessness just getting out of control and people have nowhere else to go and they know that this loophole exists in the system and so they're just trying their luck? I already found out about all these fake job postings on Indeed. We know nobody is hiring right now, so you got the people getting out of prison who can't get a job, can't get housing. Where are they supposed to go? We got so many migrants coming over here that the shelters are filled to capacity, and y'all trying to pay us to house these migrants. Not to mention all the displaced military vets that y'all just use and abuse and throw out on the street, but that's another conversation. All these people just fed up with not being able to support themselves and they just started going for what they know. I'm not exactly sure, but I know that it's weird to me that y'all are trying so hard to push home ownership on so many people, Gen Z, for example, and people can't even protect the homes that they living in now. We buy these homes, pay them off, and you still don't own it because guess what? That property tax bill is never going to stop coming. I hate to say this, but either one or two things are about to happen. Society is going to become so much more violent because people are going to have to take protecting their homes and themselves into their own hands if the courts and the police won't do anything about it. Or people are just going to start busting in our homes, stealing them, staying for 30 days, and it will be nothing that we can do about it. But y'all get in the comments. Please let me know what y'all think.
She definitely brings up some great points. This squatting issue is definitely not a singular issue, but regardless if you're dealing with homelessness, immigration, no one should be able to break into your house or make some type of fabricated lease, and then you legally have to go through a arduous process to get these people removed. You should literally be able to call 911. You show proof of ownership of the home, and they should be immediately removed from the premises. But let me know what you think in the comments below about squatting and squatters' rights. Have you ever had an issue with a squatter? If so, let me know in the comments below. I look forward to hearing from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.